The Lost Book of Enki, the 11th Tablet. Praise to Ninhursag, on earth the peacemaker, in unison the Anunnaki proclaimed. During the first Shar after the deluge, Ninhursag, to cool down tempers, managed. Nibiru with gold to resupply was over ambitions, and rivalry paramount. Slowly the earth to teem with life returned. With the seed of life by Enki preserved, what by itself survived was augmented on land and in the airs and waters. Most precious of all the Anunnaki discovered were mankind's own remnants. As in bygone days, when the primitive workers were created, the Anunnaki, few and strained for civilized workers, now clamored. By the time the first Shar after the deluge was completed, the peaceful truce by an unexpected occurrence was shattered. Not between Marduk and Ninurta, not between the Enki and Enlil clans, was the eruption. Between Marduk's own sons by the Ajiji abetted was tranquility broken. When Marduk and Sarpanit and their sons and daughters on Lamu the deluge outwaited, the two sons Asar and Satu to the daughters of Shamgaz, the Ajiji leader, a liking took. When to earth they all returned, the two brothers, the two sisters espoused. Asar, the one called Asta, chose. Satu, the one called Nabat, betrothed. Asar, with his father Marduk, in the dark-hued lands to abide, chose. Satu, near the landing place where the Ajiji dwelt, with Shamgaz his dwelling made. About the domains on earth was Shamgaz concerned. Where shall the Ajiji the masters be? So did Shamgaz the other Ajijis in sight. Of that Nabat to Satu daily spoke. By staying with his father, Asar the successor alone shall be. The fertile lands he will inherit. So did Shamgaz and his daughter Nabat to Satu day after day say. How the succession in the lands of Satu alone to return, father and daughter schemed. On an auspicious day they made a banquet. Ijiji and Anunnaki to it they invited. Asar, unsuspecting, to celebrate with his brother also came. Nabat, his spouse's sister, prepared the tables, and footstools she also set. She beautified herself, with lyre in hand, a song to mighty Asar she sang. Satu before him choice roast meat cut, with salted knife for him fattenings he served. Shamgaz in a large goblet new wine to Asar offered, an admixture for him he made. A large vessel, mighty to look upon, with elixir wine he gave him. In good humor was Asar, merrily he arose and sang. With cymbals in his hand he chanted. Then by the admixture wine he was overcome, to the ground he fell down. Let us for a sound sleep take him, the host to the others at the banquet said. They Asar to another chamber carried. In a coffin they him laid. The coffin with tight seals they closed, into the sea they threw it. When word of what had happened Asta reached to Marduk her husband's father, she raised a wailing. Asar to his death in the sea depths was brutally thrown. Quickly must the coffin be found. They searched the sea for Asar's coffin. By the shores of the dark-hued land it was found. Inside the stiff body of Asar lay. From its nostrils the breath of life departed. Marduk his clothes rent. On his forehead he put ashes. My son, Sarpanit cried and wept. Great were her griefs and mourning. Enki was distraught and wept. The curse of Cain is repeated. To his son in agony he said. Asta to high heavens a wailing raised. To Marduk for revenge and an heir, an appeal she made. Satu his death must meet. By your own seed a successor let me conceive. Let by your name his name remembered be, the lineage surviving. This, alas, cannot be done, Enki to Marduk and Asta said. The brother who killed the brother's brother must be the keeper. For this Satu must be spared. By his seed an heir to Asar you must conceive. By these twists of fate Asta was baffled. Distraught the rules to defy she was determined. Before the body of Asar was wrapped, and in the shroud in a shrine preserved, from his phallus Asta the life seed of Asar extracted. With it Asta herself made conceive an heir and avenger to Asar to be born. To Enki and his sons, to Marduk and his brothers, Satu were delivered. The sole heir and Marduk's successor am I. Of the lands of the two Narrows I will be the master. Before the Anunnaki's council, Asta the claim refuted. With Asar's heir I am with child, among the river's bulrushes. With the child she hid, the wrath of Satu she was avoiding. Haran, she called the boy, to be his father's avenger she raised him. Satu by this was disconcerted. Shamgaz from ambitions did not retreat. From earth year to earth year the Ajiji and their offspring from the landing place spread. Unto the borders of Tilman, Ninharsag's sacred region, closer they moved. To overrun the place of the celestial chariots the Ajiji and their earthlings threatened. In the dark-hued lands the child Haran by earth's quick life cycles to a hero grew. By his great uncle Gabil was Haran adopted. By him was he trained and instructed. For him Gabil winged sandals for soaring fashion. To fly like a falcon he was able. For him Gabil a divine harpoon made. Its arrows bolts of missiles were. In the highlands of the south did him Gabil the arts of metal and smithing teach. The secret of metal called iron Gabil to Haran revealed. From its weapons Haran made. From loyal earthlings an army he raised. To challenge Satu and the Ajiji northward. Across the land and river they marched. When Haran and his earthlings armied the border Tilman, the land of the missiles reached. Satu to Haran words of challenge sent. Between us two alone is the conflict. Let us one-on-one in contest meet. In the skies above Tilman, Satu and his whirlwind for combat Haran awaited. When Haran toward him like a falcon skyward soared, a poisoned dart at him Satu shot. Like a scorpion's sting, it Haran fell. When Asta this saw, a cry to heaven she sent forth. For Ningish Zeta, she cried out. From his celestial boat Ningish Zeta came down. To save the hero, for his mother he came. With magic powers Ningish Zeta the poison to benevolent blood converted. By morning was Haran healed. From the dead he was returned. Then with a fiery pillar, like a heavenly fish, with fins and a fiery tail, Ningish Zeta to Haran provided. Its eyes from blue to red, to blue their colors changed. Towards the triumphant Satu, Haran and the fiery pillar soared. Far and wide each other they chased. Fierce and deadly was the battle. At first Haran's fiery pillar was hit. Then with his harpoon Haran Satu smote. To the ground Satu crashing down came. By Haran in tethers he was bound. When before the council Haran with his captive uncle came, they saw that he was blinded. His testicles squashed, like a discarded jar he stood. Let Satu, blind and airless, live. So did Asta to the council say. To end his days as a mortal among the Ajiji the council his fate determined. Triumphant was Haran declared, the throne of his father to inherit. On a metal tablet was the council's decision inscribed. In the hall of records they placed it. In his adobe Marduk with the decision was pleased. By what had happened he was sorrowed. Though Haran a son of Asar, his son was, from Shamgaz the Ajiji he was destined. A domain, one as among the Anunnaki allocated, to him was not given. Having lost both sons, and each other Marduk and Sarpanit, solace sought. In time to them another son was born, Nabu, prophecy-bearer they named him. Now this is the account of why in the faraway a new chariot's place was built, and the love of Dumuzi and Inanna that Marduk by Dumuzi's death disrupted. It was after the contesting of Haran and Satu, and their aerial battle over Tilman, that Enlil his 3 sons to a council summoned. With concern to them of what was happening, he said, In the beginning the earthlings in our image and after our likeness we made. Now the Anunnaki offspring in the image and likeness of the earthlings became. Then it was Cain who his brother killed. Now a son of Marduk is his brother's killer. For the first time ever an Anunnaki offspring from earthling an army raised. Weapons from the metal of the Anunnaki as secret in their hands he placed. From the days when by Alalu and Anzu our legitimacy was challenged, disruption and rule-breaking by the Ajiji continued. Now the beacon peaks in the domain of Marduk are located. The landing place by the Ajiji is held. Now toward the place of the chariots the Ajiji are advancing. In the name of Satu, to all the heaven-earth facilities they claim will lie. So did Enlil to his 3 sons say. To take counter-steps to them he proposed. An alternative heaven-earth facility, in secret establish we must. Let it in Ninruta's land beyond the oceans. in the midst of trusted earthlings come to be. Thus was the secret mission in the hands of Ninruta entrusted. In the mountain lands beyond the oceans, besides the great lake, a new bond heaven-earth he was setting up. Within an enclosure he placed it. At the foot of the mountains where the gold nuggets were scattered, a plain with firm ground he chose. On it for ascent and descent markings he made. Primitive are the facilities, but the purpose they will serve. So did Ninruta to his father Enlil in good time declare. From there gold shipments to Nibiru can continue. From there in need we too can ascend. At that time, what as a blessed event began, as a horrible occurrence ended. At that time Dumuzi, Enki's youngest son, to Inanna, Nanar's daughter, a liking took. Inanna, Enlil's granddaughter, by the lord of herding was captivated. A love that knows no bounds engulfed them, a passion their hearts inflamed. Many of the love songs that for a long time thereafter were sung. Inanna and Dumuzi were the first to sing them. By song, their love they recounted. To Dumuzi, his youngest son, Enki, a large domain above the Abzu allotted. Meluha, the black land, was its name. Highland trees there grew. Its waters abundant were. Large bulls among its rivers reeds roamed. Greatly numbered were its cattle. Silver from the mountains came a copper, bright as gold and a glitter. Greatly beloved was Dumuzi by Enki. After the death of Asar he was favored. Of his youngest brother, Marduk was jealous. Inanna by her parents, Nanar and Ningal, was beloved. Enlil by her cradle sat. Beautiful beyond describing she was. In martial arts with Anunnaki heroes she competed. Of journeys in the heavens and of celestial boats, from her brother Utu she learned. A skyship of her own to roam in earth's skies to her the Anunnaki presented. After the deluge on the landing platform, Dumuzi and Inanna, their eyes on each other set. At the dedication of the artifice mounts was between them a warm encounter. Hesitant at first they were, he of Enki's clan, she of Enlil an offspring. When Ninharsag for peace the disrupting clans together brought, Inanna and Dumuzi away from the others to be together managed. Love to each other they professed, as they went strolling together, sweet words of alluring love to each other they said. Side by side they lay down, one heart with another heart chatted. Around her waist Dumuzi put his arm, like a wild bull to take her he wished. Let me teach you to Inanna, Dumuzi said. Gently she kissed him, then to him of her mother she spoke. What fib could I tell my mother? What words will you tell Ningal? Let us of our love my mother tell. Of joy's cedar perfume she will on us sprinkle. To the dwelling place of Ningal, Inanna's mother, the lovers went. To them Ningal her blessing gave. Of Dumuzi the mother of Inanna approved. Lord Dumuzi, as a son-in-law of Nanar you are worthy, to him she said. Dumuzi, as bridegroom, by Nanar himself was welcomed. Inanna's brother Utu, let it so be, said. Perchance the espousing between the clans truly will bring, Enlil to them all said. When the love and betrothal Dumuzi to his father and brother spoke, Enki of peace through espousal also was thinking. His blessing to Dumuzi he gave. Dumuzi's brother, all except Marduk, about the espousal were joyful. A betrothal bed of gold by Gibel was fashioned. Nergal blue-hued lapis stones sent. Sweet dates of fruit by Inanna favored. Beside the bed they in a pile placed. Under the fruits the beads of lapis they hid for Inanna to discover. As the custom was, to perfume and clothe Inanna, a sister of Dumuzi's was sent. Geshtiana, a sister-in-law to be, was her name. To her Inanna what was in her heart revealed, of her future with Dumuzi. To her she said, a vision of a great nation I have, as a great Anunnaki Dumuzi there will rise. His name over others shall be exalted, his queen spouse I shall be. Princely status we will share, rebellious countries we shall together subdue. To Dumuzi I will status give, the country I will rightly direct. Inanna's visions of rulership and glory by Geshtiana to her brother Marduk were reported. By Inanna's ambitions Marduk was greatly disturbed. To Geshtiana a secret plan he told. To her brother Dumuzi, to the herder's dwelling, Geshtiana went. Lovely to behold and perfumed, to her brother Dumuzi thus she said, Before with your young wife in your embrace with you will sleep. A legitimate heir by a sister born you must have. Inanna's son to succession shall not be entitled. On your mother's knees he will not be raised. She put his hand in her hand. He pressed her body against his. My brother, with you I will lie down. Bridegroom, with you a peer of Enki we shall have. So did Gestiana to Dumuzi whisper, a noble issue from her womb to have. And to her womb Dumuzi poured the semen. By her caressing he fell asleep. During the night Dumuzi had a dream, a premonition of death he envisioned. In the dream 7 evil bandits he saw coming into his dwelling. The master has sent us for you, son of Deuter, to him they said. They chased away his ewes. His lambs and kids they drove away. The headdress of lordship they took off his head, the royal robe off his body they tore, the staff of shepherding they took and broke, his cup from its peg they threw down. Naked and barefooted they seized him, and feathers they him hands bound. In the name of the princely bird and the falcon they left him dying. Disturbed and startled, Dumuzi in the middle of the night awoke. To Gestiana the dream he told. The dream is not favorable, Gestiana to the distraught Dumuzi said. Marduk of raping me will accuse you. Evil emissaries to arrest you he will send. To try you and disgrace you he will order. The liaison with an Enlilite to disunite. As a wondered beast, Dumuzi a cry roared out. Betrayal! Betrayal! He shouted. To Utu, Inanna's brother, help me. Words were sent. The name of his father Enki, as a talesman he uttered. Through the desert of Imush, the snake's desert, Dumuzi rushed to escape. To the place of mighty waterfalls from the evil doers he ran to hide. Where the gushing waters the rocks to slippery smoothness made, Dumuzi slipped and fell. The onrushing waters his lifeless body, and a white froth swept away. Now this is the account of Inanna's descent to the lower Abzu, and the great Anunnaki's war, and how Marduk in the Ikur, alive, was imprisoned, when the lifeless body of Dumuzi from the Great Lakes waters by Ningal was retrieved. To the adobe of Nergal and Irish-Kirgal, in the lower Abzu the body was brought. On a stone slab was the dead body of Dumuzi, a son of Enki, placed. When of what had happened word to Enki was sent, Enki rent his clothes. On his forehead he put ashes. My son, for Dumuzi he laminated. What have I sinned to be so punished? Out loud he asked. When I to earth from Nibiru came, Ea, he whose home is waters, was my name. With waters did the celestial chariots obtain. Their thrust power in waters I splashed down. Then by an avalanche of waters the earth was swept over. In waters did Asar, my grandchild, drown. By waters my beloved Dumuzi is now dead. Everything I had done for righteous purpose did I do it. Why am I punished? Why has fate against me turned? So did Enki bewail and lament. When from Gestiana the veracity of occurrences was discovered, greater was Enki's agony. Now Marduk, my firstborn, for his deed will also suffer. By this disappearance and death of Dumuzi was Inanna worried, then grieved. Then to the lower Abzu she hurried, Dumuzi's body for burial to retrieve. When Irish-Kigal, her sister, of the arrival of Inanna at the precinct's gates was told, Irish-Kigal, a devious scheme on the part of Inanna, suspected. At each of the 7 gates, one of Inanna's accoutrements and weapons was from her removed. Then unclothed and powerless before Irish-Kigal's throne, of scheming an heir by Nergal, Dumuzi's brother, she was accused. Trembling with fury, Irish-Kigal, to his sister's explanations, would not listen. Let loose against her the 60 diseases, Irish-Kigal, her visor, Namtar, in anger ordered. By the disappearance of Inanna in the lower Abzu were her parents much worried. Nanar to Enlil and the matter went. Enlil to Enki a message sent. From Nergal, his son, Irish-Kigal's spouse, Enki what had happened learned. From the clay of the Abzu, Enki 2 emissaries fashioned, beings without blood, by death raised unharmed. To the lower Abzu he sent them, Inanna to bring back, whether alive or dead. When before Irish-Kigal they came, Irish-Kigal by their appearance was puzzled. "Are you Anunnaki? Are you Earthlings?" With bewilderment she asked them. Namtar the magical weapons of power against them directed, but unharmed the two were. To the lifeless body of Inanna he took them. Hanging from the stake she was. Upon the corpse the clay emissaries a pulsar and an emitter directed. Then the water of life on her they sprinkled, in her mouth the planet of life they placed. Then Inanna stirred, her eyes she opened, from the dead Inanna arose. When the two emissaries Inanna to the upper world were ready to return, Inanna the lifeless body of Dumuzi to take along them ordered. At the 7 gates of the lower Abzu to Inanna her accoutrements and attributes were returned. To the adobe Dumuzi in the Black Land, the lover of her youth, to take the emissary she ordered. There to wash him with pure water, with sweet oil him anoint, then to clothe him in red shroud upon the slab of lapis lay him. Then in the rocks for him a rest place carve out, the day of arising there to await. As for herself, to the adobe of Enki Inanna set her steps. Retribution for her beloved's death she wanted. The death of Marduk, the culprit, she demanded. There has been death enough, Enki to her said. Marduk an instigator was, but murderer he committed not. When Inanna learned that Marduk would not by Enki be punished, and Anna to her parents and brother went. To high heavens she a wailing raised. Justice, revenge, death to Marduk she cried for. At Enlil's adobe his sons Inanna and Utu joined, for a council of war they gathered. Then Ruta, whom the rebel Anzu defeated, for strong measure argued, of secret words between Marduk and the Ajiji exchanged, Utu to them reported. Of Marduk an evil serpent, earth must be rid, Enlil with them agreed. When the demand for Marduk's surrender to Enki his father was sent, Enki to his adobe Marduk and all other sons summoned. Though for my beloved Dumuzi I am still grieving, Marduk's rights I must defend. Though evil did Marduk instigate, by ill fate, not by Marduk's hands, did Dumuzi die. Marduk is my firstborn, Ninki is his mother. For secession he is destined. From death by Ninruta's gang, by us all, he must be protected, so did Enki say. Only Gibil and Ningal their father's call heeded. Ningishzida was opposed. Nergal was hesitant. Only if in mortal danger he will I help, he said. It was after that a war, a ferocity unknown between the two clans erupted. Unlike the contending of Haran and Satu of Earthlings descended, it was a battle between Anunnaki, Nibiruian born. Among them, on another planet, was loosed. By Inanna was the warfare begun. In her skyship to the domains of Enki's sons she crossed over. Marduk to battle she challenged. To the domains of Nergal and Gibil she him pursued. To assist her, Ninruta from his stormbird withering beams at the enemy's stronghold shot. Ishkur from the skies with scorching lightnings and smashing thunders attacked, and the Abzu from the river's fish he washed away. Cattle in the fields he dispersed. To the north, the place of the artifice mounts, Marduk then retreated. Pursuing him, Ninruta on the habitations poison-bearing missiles rained. His weapon that tears apart the people and those lands robbed of their senses. The canals that the river's waters bore, red from blood became. Ishkur's brilliance, the night's darkness into flaming days converted. As the devastating battles northward advanced, Marduk in the Ekur himself ensconced. Gibil for it an unseen shield devised. Nergal to heaven its all-seeing eye raised. With a weapon of brilliance by a horn directed, Inanna the hiding-place attacked. Haran to defend his grandfather came. By her brilliance was his right eye damaged. While Utu the Ijiji and their horde of earthlings beyond Tilmud held off. At the foot of the Artifice Mount, Anunnaki, this and that clan supporting, in battle clashed. Let Marduk surrender, let the bloodshed end, so did Enlil to Enki's words convey. Let brother talk to brother, to Enki Ninharsag a message sent. In this hideout, within the Ekur, Marduk his pursuers to defy continued. Within the house, which like a mountain is, his final stand he made. Inanna the massive stone structure could not surmount. Its smooth sides her weapons deflected. Then Ninruta of the secret entrance learned. The swivel stone on the north side found. Through a dark corridor Ninruta passed. The grand gallery he reached. Its vault by the many-hued emissions of the crystals like a rainbow was a-glitter. Inside, by the intrusion alerted, Marduk with ready weapons Ninruta awaited. With weapons responding, smashing the wonder crystals, Ninruta up the gallery kept going, and to the upper chamber, the place of the great pulsating stone, Marduk retreated. At its entrance, Marduk the sliding stone locks lowered. From one and all emissions they barred, and to the Akur, Inanna, and Ishkur Ninruta followed. What next to do, they contemplated. Let the encased hiding chamber be Marduk's stone coffin, to them Ishkur said. To 3 blocking stones, ready for down-gliding, Ishkur their attention drew. Let slow death by alive being buried be Marduk's sentence. Inanna her consent gave. At the end of the gallery, the blocking stones let loose. Each one of them, 1 stone for plugging, slid down, Marduk as in a tomb to seal. Now this is the account of how Marduk was sealed, and to exile departed, and how the Akur was dismantled, and lordship over the lands rearranged. Away from the sun and light, without food or water, Marduk within the Akur alive was entombed. By his imprisonment and punishment without trial, Sarpanit, his spouse, a wailing raised. To Enki, her father-in-law, she hurried. With the young son, Nabu, to him she came. To be among the living, Marduk must be returned, to Enki Sarpanit said. He sent her to Utu and Nanar, who with Inanna can intercede. Wearing a garment of atonement, to the Lord Marduk, give life, she pleaded. Let him humbly life continue, rulership he will lay aside. Appeased was not Inanna. For the death for my beloved, the instigator must die, Inanna retorted. Ninharsag the peacemaker, the brothers Enki and Enlil summoned. Punishment to Marduk must come. Death is not warranted. To them she said, let Marduk in exile live. The secession on earth to Ninruta submit. Enlil by her words was pleased and smiled. Ninruta was his son. Of Ninruta she was the mother. If between secession and life the choice is, what can I, a father, say? So did Enki with a heavy heart answer. And my lands widespread is the desolation. Warfare must end. For Dumuzi I am still in mourning. Let Marduk live in exile. If peace is to be returned, and Marduk shall live, binding arrangements must be made, Enlil to Enki said. All facilities that heaven and earth bond to my hands alone must be entrusted. The mastery over the land of the 2 Narrows to another son of yours you must give. The Ajiji whom Marduk follow, the landing place must give up and abandon. To a land of no return, by no descendant of Zisutra inhabited, must Marduk in exile go. So did Enlil forcefully declare, to be the foremost among the brothers he met. The hand of fate Enki in his heart acknowledged. Let it so be, with bowed head he said. Ningishzida alone the Akur innards know. Let him over its land the master be. After the decision by the great Anunnaki were announced, Ningishzida for the rescue they summoned. How Marduk from the blocked and sealed innards to extricate was his challenge. To let free the one who alive is buried, a task beyond conceiving, to him they gave. Ningishzida the Akur's secret design contemplated, how to circumvent the blockings he planned. Through a chiseled upper opening Marduk will be rescued, to the leaders he said. At a place which I will show them, a doorway in the stone they will cut. From it upward a twisting passageway they shall bore, a rescue shaft creating. Through hidden hollowings in the Akur's midst they will continue. At the vortex of the hollowings through the stones they will break through. A doorway to the insides they will blow open, thereby the blockings circumventing. Up the grand gallery they will continue. The 3 stone bars they will raise. The uppermost chamber, Marduk's death prison, they will reach. Anunnaki by Ningishzida guided, his outline planned and followed. With tools that cracked the stones the openings they made, the rescue shaft they fashioned. The inside of the artifice mount they reached, an exit they blew open. Circumventing the 3 blocking stones, the uppermost chamber they reached. On a small platform the portcullis they raised. Marduk fainted, they rescued. Carefully through the twisting shaft they the Lord lowered. To fresh air they him brought. Outside Sarpanit and Nabu, spouse and father, were awaiting. A joyful reunion it was. When to Marduk his father Enki the terms of release conveyed, Marduk was enraged. "I would rather die than my birthright forfeit," he shouted. Sarpanit into his arms Nabu thrust. "We are part of your future," she softly said. Marduk was angered. Marduk was humbled. "To fate I yield," he inaudibly said. With Sarpanit and Nabu to a land of no return he departed, to a place where horned beasts are hunted. With wife and son he went. After Marduk had departed, Ninruta, the Akur, through the shaft re-entered. Through a horizontal corridor to the Akur's vulva he went. In its east wall, in a niche artfully fashioned, the destiny stone a red radiance was emitting. Its power to kill me grabs, with a killing tracking, it me seizes, Ninruta inside the chamber cried. "Take it away, to obliteration destroy it," to his lieutenants Ninruta shouted. Retracing his steps, through the grand gallery to the topmost chamber Ninruta went, and a hollowed-out chest, the heart of the Akur pulsating its net force by 5 compartments, was enhanced. With his baton Ninruta the stone chest struck. With a resonating sound it responded. Its gug stone, that directions determined, Ninruta ordered to be taken out, to a place of his choice carried. Coming down the grand gallery, Ninruta the 27 pairs of Nibiru crystals examined. Many in his fight with Marduk were damaged. Some of the struggle intact survived. To remove the whole ones from their grooves Ninruta ordered. The others, with his beam, he pulverized. Outside the house, which like a mountain is, Ninruta in his blackbird sword. To the apex stone his attention he turned, his enemy's epitome it represented. With his weapons he shook it loose. To the ground its pieces it toppled. "By this the fear of Marduk is forever ended," Ninruta, victorious, declared. On the battleground the assembled Anunnaki the praise of Ninruta announced. "Like Anu you are made," to their hero and leaders they shouted. To replace the incapacitated beacon, a mount near the place of celestial chariots was chosen. Within its innards the salvage crystals were rearranged. Upon its peak the gug stone, the stone of directing, was installed. Mount Mashu, mount of the supreme celestial Barku, the mount was called. At that time Enlil his 3 sons summoned. Ninlil and Ninharsag also attended. Commands over olden lands to confirm, lordship over new lands to assign, they met. To Ninruta, who Anzu and Marduk had vanquished, the Enlilship powers were granted. In all the lands his father's surrogate to be, of the landing place in the Cedar Mountains, lordship to Ishgur was granted. To his domain northward thereof was the landing place joined. The lands south of east thereof were the Ijiji and their offspring had spread. To Nanar, as an everlasting endowment, were given by his descendants the followers to keep and to hold. The peninsula wherein the place of the chariots was, and Nanar's lands was included. Utu as commander of the place and of the navel of the earth was confirmed. In the lands of the 2 narrows, as agreed, Enki to Ningishzida the lordship did assign. To that none of Enki's other sons objected. To that Inanna was opposed. To the heritage of Dumuzi, her deceased bridegroom, did Inanna claim lay. A dominion of her own she of Enki and Enlil demanded. How Inanna's demands to satisfy the leaders contemplated. About the lands and the people, the great Anunnaki who the fates decree counsel took. Regarding the earth and its resettling words, with Anu they exchanged. From the time of the deluge, the great calamity, almost 2 shars have passed. The earthlings have proliferated. From mountain lands to dry lower lands they went. Of civilized mankind by this sutra there were descendants. With Anunnaki's seed they were intermixed. Offspring of Ijiji who intermarried roamed about in the distant lands of Cain. Kinfolk survived. Few and lofty were the Anunnaki who from Nibiru had come. Few were their perfect descendants. How settlements for themselves and for earthlings to establish, the great Anunnaki considered. How over mankind lofty to remain, how to make the many, the few obey and serve. About all that, about the future, the leaders with Anu words exchanged. To come to earth one more time Anu decided. With Antu, his spouse, he wished to come.